Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Estrella virtual visit series. I'm Allison Campbell with Estrella Consulting, and I'm so excited to welcome Frank Thomas from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. Our virtual visit series is designed to introduce you all to a variety of colleges and allow for you to get to know the institutions and their staff in a more personal way. So thank you, Frank, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Do you mind just taking a few minutes to tell us about yourself and how long you have been at Rollins?
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks very much for inviting me. My name is Frank Thomas. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at Rollins College. I've been here a little more than 3 years. I've been in higher education for about a decade, and I've been in education overall for about 27 years. Started my high school teaching career in Austin, Texas. Actually had Barbara Bush as a student in my very first class and did not know that she was the governor's daughter at the time. So I've been had one foot in education in one way or another for pretty much all of my career.
That's awesome. That's very cool. What a fun fact you can share with people.
It
It's a good icebreaker too, you know.
is, yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to hear all about Rollins. So can you just tell us a little bit about your location? I know we were talking briefly about it before we got started.
Mhm.
Location, the enrollment, the type of institution, and really any need to know facts or points of pride about Rollins.
Yeah, so kind of our quick bio is that Rollins College is the oldest college in Florida. We were founded back at a time when there were only 6 or 7 high schools in the entire state, and the largest city back then was Key West. So we go back to the very beginnings of education and higher education in this state. We are located in the town of Winter Park. So you have this beautiful small town college campus feel, but we're also 15 minutes from downtown Orlando, Florida. We're about 40 minutes from Disney World and Universal and the theme parks. So it's this great combination of locations between this small campus and an attention to you as an individual, but a global city in your backyard. Rollins is a private college, a liberal arts college, and we have been non-denominational and coeducational from our very beginning. We have about 2,300 students. So we would be maybe a mid-sized high school in a lot of places. And that's as large as we want to be. We really want to focus on the student as the individual and keep those class sizes small so that you get that attention to you that you're looking for. And as a liberal arts college, a lot of folks have heard this term and feel like they may understand what it means, but I want to put a finer point on it. At a liberal arts college, we're not locking you into a major. We're not putting everything in just that focus. In fact, at Rollins, only about a third of your classes are taken in your major. And most of our major programs of study are in broader fields, such as education, physics, sociology, because the student will tailor and narrow their interest through the research that they choose to lead, through the immersive service projects they participate in, through the study abroad opportunities that they take advantage of, and through the internship and work experience that they select. So rather than focusing more on several smaller, narrower degrees, liberal arts colleges are more about that broader approach and also giving you a global perspective on whatever it is that you're choosing to take. So even though we are a liberal arts college, we do have STEM degrees such as biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, and marine biology. We are proud to have the top-ranked MBA in the state of Florida. So we have a very strong business program. And the largest single major is actually psychology. And it's partly because of that broad approach that I mentioned. Psychology fits so well with so many career types that range from clinical psychology to communications to political science and marketing and even computer science. And one of the great things about liberal arts colleges like Rollins is that we don't make students apply to a major. If we admit you to the college, we are admitting you to everything that we offer. And you'll have up to 2 years to explore and to navigate that before you need to select a major. But all of this is in aid of the fact that more and more today, students are looking for careers that don't have a degree named after them. So if you want to be an accountant, you get an accounting degree, you go work for an accounting firm, and that's still a common pathway. But more and more students are looking for careers that aren't that clearly defined, that don't have this bachelor's degree named after them. And that's how a liberal arts approach can be effective. Lastly, you asked about a couple of points of pride for us. We're very proud to have one of the most beautiful college campuses in America. Our students says the Princeton Review, one of the 15 most beautiful campuses in America. And we're also extremely proud to be the alma mater of Mr. Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on PBS.
Wow. You're just knocking out all my questions. I feel like you covered all of them, which is great. But I too went to a liberal arts university and can attest to just having that exposure, when you're 16, 17 years old and you think you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And, it's really because of the tunnel vision that you may have, in your community, in your household, what your parents do, what your grandparents do, what a doctor is or a police officer, just because those are the people that you have contact with. But to really have that breadth of knowledge, available to you to sample different things or to, see what your interests truly are, I think is very beneficial in that discovery age or like the discover time. So I appreciate that, you aren't pigeonholing your students into having to pick right away, because truly, I think the statistic is like 2/3 of incoming freshmen end up changing their major
Right.
within
And we
college.
see the
So
same thing. And that's why we don't require, in fact, we don't allow students to commit to the major before they come in. But all of this is in support of the fact that I want to reiterate to students that are seeing this, that you don't have to have it all figured out today or by the time you're a senior, or even when you get to be my age. I half joke when I say I'm 51 years old and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But the one of the premises behind a liberal arts education is not preparing you just for your first career, but for your next career and maybe even for your last career, so that you have a set of skills and experiences and tools that allow you to change from one field to another without necessarily needing a new college degree.
that's fair. It's a very good point. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate, like I said, from coming from a liberal arts background, all of the just open-mindedness and the ability to kind of explore and some of the soft skills that you gain, just through forcing yourself a little bit out of your box. So I appreciate that. Can you speak a little bit to kind of the student vibe at Rollins? Like, as far as the student that you're recruiting or that you're seeing applying, do you find that there's a specific type of student that is attracted to Rollins?
Once students get to know our college, we find that students who appreciate the outdoors will thrive here because of the beauty of our campus, because of our natural location on a large lake. Literally, Lake Virginia is part of our campus. So there are opportunities for outdoor and water-based activities right here on our campus. But also through our outreach and getting to know the college, we want students to know that we are looking for applicants who are academically brave. Now, what does that mean? It does not necessarily mean taking all AP classes or having a perfect 4.0 GPA. When you get to your third and fourth year at Rollins College, you're going to be in classes with 6 or 7 students in some cases. And there's nowhere to hide in a class with 6 or 7 students. So being academically brave means being prepared and being willing to participate in the academic experience when you show up each day. Because you will be known and noticed, you will be called upon. This is the kind of place where we are going to push students out onto the stage. We are going to challenge their conceptions about themselves and what they think their limits are, and to engage with the world around you. Because it's literally in our mission statement that we are creating this next generation of global citizens. That's you, my students, so that you can have productive careers and meaningful lives. And it's those 5 words that animate what I do as an admission counselor to help you find the right fit. Sometimes it's with us, and sometimes it's someplace else, and that's great. But when you talk, particularly use the word vibe, this is where I pitch coming to visit Rollins. Whether it's us or any other school that makes it onto your final list of maybe 3 to 5, whatever is that in that last list, even if they're far away, I encourage you to visit them, because we can show you pictures and tell you stories all day long, but you don't really get that vibe until you walk on campus. And that's when you can say, can I see myself here? Are these my people? Is this kind of my environment? And hopefully you'll make that investment in time and resources to come visit.
That's a great point. I mean, we always advocate that if students can take the opportunity to visit a campus, to definitely do so. Lending itself to that, this is the question I always like to ask is, do you consider demonstrated interest? So if a student does come to campus and maybe they're like a borderline admit, but they've shown they have, they would be a great fit. They really love it there. They've reached out to you. They've attended programming. Is that something that's helpful or considered?
Yeah, like nearly all colleges, we will consider demonstrated interest, but we're all a little different in how we do it. At Rollins College, demonstrated interest is mainly a binary choice. Have you shown any interest or none at all? We'll receive about 10,000 applications. and we have seats for about 570 students. So if you took all of those applicants and just kind of rated them and put them onto a standard line graph, you'd have your typical bell curve with several thousand students right there in the middle that could all be well qualified and could all fit really well here at Rollins. How do we make those fine decisions among students who look so similar to each other? Well, one of those intangible items that we look for is demonstrated interest. Have you shown any interest in us, or did you just throw a Common App our way and never connect with us? So open our emails. We can see if you've opened our emails. Now, we can't see if you've read them, but we can see if you've opened them. So triage your email. Set up a video or a phone chat with your counselor, or send them some questions, even if they're kind of simple or straightforward. Obviously, visit campus or sign up for a webinar or go to an open house or go to a college fair when it's advertised in your area. Anything that you can do that shows that college that you're interested will, A, help you in the application process, as I just mentioned, but B, give you more information about this school that you're considering attending.
If you have a student, I mean, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, so Winter Park, Florida is probably a little bit further away than, it might not be as easy for people to come visit. Is there any type of opportunity for a virtual visit? Like, do you do any type of virtual programming, or do you have any programs that if you maybe don't have the finances to visit, that you could do like a fly-in opportunity?
So we offer virtual visit opportunities both in the fall for prospective students and applicants, and in the spring for admitted students. So we have admitted student open houses that cover the whole next phase of questions that you will have once you've been offered admission. So we offer virtual opportunities for both of those, as well as a virtual information session that we offer periodically throughout the year. And then every student is assigned an admission counselor based on the area of the country where their high school is. For students who happen to be in the state of Ohio, attending a high school in the state of Ohio, their counselor is my colleague, Kim Emerald, who is a Rollins alumna herself. For students who are in high schools in the Western United States, that's me. So you have the opportunity to set up a video or phone chat with your personal admission counselor. It can just be you. It can be you and your family if you've got questions about aid and campus safety and housing and all of those things. Our job is to be your concierge through this process, your guide, to get you through this with a minimum of stress as possible.
Okay, that sounds great. You talked a little bit about some of your academic programs and what you were considering to be your stronger ones. Business, you said, was very strong. You mentioned marine biology, which obviously we don't have a lot of those up here in Northeast Ohio. But what would you say is maybe a niche major that's offered at Rollins, or maybe something that's flying under the radar that you're like, this is a really cool major and I want more people to know about it?
We have a major called Critical Media and Cultural Studies. And this is one of those degree programs where I know what all of those words mean, but what is it? Yeah, and so if a student sees that, they may not necessarily know what this degree is about. So Critical Media and Cultural Studies, let me mute that, sorry. Critical Media and Cultural Studies is, it actually pulls coursework from multiple departments on campus, such as communications, political science, marketing, religion. And the idea behind it is for students who want to tackle critical issues in the world and want to think critically about solutions to them and want to tell stories about those issues to impact other people. We have a degree that's going to give you skills in how to tackle and address some of these critical issues and how to tell these stories to convince other people that they should take action. So while we don't have a film and television degree here or a documentary filmmaking degree, we do have this degree program that can get you a set of verbal and communication and written and soft and intellectual skills that can help you tackle some of those critical issues in the world.
That's really interesting. I'm wondering just like how that would translate into like a career. Like, what would your title be to do something like that?
And this is a great example of one of those, careers that doesn't really have a degree named after it. So some of our students who have taken this experience have gone to work in government in various aspects. Some of them work in constituent services in various legislators' offices. Some of these students will actually go and work inside some of the industries that they're trying to change and maybe nudge a particular division or section of that industry in the right direction. And some students are working for non-governmental organizations such as Greenpeace or the World Wildlife Fund, or they are
Okay.
going out on their own and they are advocating for the things that are important to them. They're seeking funding to create these stories, maybe to team up with a documentary filmmaker. The critical media and cultural studies graduate has the idea and they have the narrative and the story they want to tell, and they team up with someone who has the film expertise to put that onto celluloid and to get that out there to the world. So this is the kind of thing that I've never had a student come up to me at a college fair or a high school visit and say, I want to major in this. But when I talk to them and get to know some of the things that they're pursuing for their lives, I bring this degree program to them instead, and they find that it's a good fit.
That was a great example, like you had mentioned about trying to find undefined career opportunities and just finding ways for people to pursue their passions and how they can kind of meld those together. So that was a really great example, Frank. Good job. Okay. How about, let's talk about like different ends of the spectrum for your students. Do you have an honors program of any sort? Or do you have any types of like designated student supports, like outside of just like accessibility?
We do have an honors program, and when I'm asked about it, I like to stress that our honors program is very small. It's about 25 students in a class of 570. So the reason I make that distinction is because many students who are offered admission to Rollins will be offered admission to peer institutions and maybe offered the honors program there, where the programs are much larger. And so if they're offered admission to Rollins, but not the honors program, they feel that might be a competitive disadvantage, or that we don't view them the same way as the other schools might, when it's really just a question of the size of our program. It'll be about 24 or 25 students, and they will stay together as a cohort throughout all 4 years here. They'll have the opportunity to access honors seminars and honors versions of some of our general education courses. They will complete an honors project, and there are some other activities such as spring break related trips in certain thematic areas that they can participate in. It is by invitation only, so students need not apply for it. In fact, when students apply to Rollins, they are also applying for our full ride scholarship program and for our honors program. So there's no extra step involved.
Oh, cool. That was
Regarding,
going to be my
sorry,
question about
yeah.
I was going to ask you about that full ride, if that was something that was an automatic consideration or if that was something additional that needed to be submitted.
We'll talk in greater depth, I'm sure, in a minute about financial aid and admission, but I'll mention now that all students are automatically considered for our partial merit-based scholarships that run up to around $35,000 per year. That's a little more than half of tuition. Students who meet our November 15th deadline by applying early decision or early action will also be considered for that full ride scholarship program. So that's the extra carrot or cupcake on the end of the stick, depending on what motivates you, to apply by November
Cupcakes.
15th. For
Okay.
students who have particular learning differences or particular accommodation needs, or any type of other student support that they need, the first stop for them is our Accessibility Services office. And my general advice to all students who want to pursue this is, first, find out what the college calls their office, because we all call it something different. At Rollins, it's called Accessibility Services. I'm going to call it AS the rest of the way here. And about 1/5 of our students are registered with AS. It's fairly common here, so there's no stigma associated with it. It's just an ordinary part of the educational process. And many of our students who have had an IEP or a 504 in their secondary school experience want to leave that behind when they go to college. We have many students who say, I'm not going to have that when I get out to the world of work, so I don't want to use that in college. And that's a fair point and a worthy goal. And you have a 4-year glide path to get there. So we encourage students to register with Accessibility Services every semester, because the supports that they will need and be offered will vary depending on the courses that they're taking and their gradual improvement and development during their time with us. We also have just this year started a new program called Neuro Navigators for our neurodiverse students, for students who are living on the autism spectrum or with related learning differences. Speaking as someone who lives with ASD and wasn't diagnosed with it until I was in my 40s, when I was in school, it was hyperactivity and didn't pay attention in class, and but there was actually a real thing here behind this. The Neuro Navigators program brought together about a dozen existing returning students who live with autism or on the spectrum, who volunteer to be peer mentors to incoming students. So any students who self-identified as living with these types of neuro differences were paired up with we gave them the opportunity to pair up with one of these peer mentors, and 7 of them took advantage of it this year. So those neuro navigators are helping these students with everyday things that's a student like that might not have considered before. For example, a student who lives with ASD, whether they have siblings or not, may never have lived in the same room as another person. They might have had their own bedroom, or their parents kept them separated because of the different way that they live in the world that we all live in. Well, when you come to college, there are certain norms about how you live in a dorm room and in a residence hall with other students. And these neuronavigators are helping our incoming students learn about what these norms are and how to navigate this whole new process.
That is really neat. I absolutely love that. And you're so right. That's such a valid point that, if you don't know how to live with someone else, how are you expected someone who already struggles with maybe, you know, picking up on social cues or, understanding body language and things like that to know exactly what to do and how to act. So I
Yep.
love that. And again, just that feeling of community and just making everyone feel like they belong and they have a place and they are accepted and loved is a really, really cool thing. And I think as a parent, my kids are younger, but I want that for my kids someday too, just to be able to go somewhere that, it's okay to be who they are. They don't have
Yeah.
to conform and they have a friend and they feel comfortable. So that is a
Mhm.
really great idea. And it's probably pretty cost efficient too, as we find a lot of places might, think to cut resources
Yeah.
for mental health. If you just have students that are willing to be mentors and, reach out and be a friend, that's a great way to
Mhm.
kind of accomplish all of those things at the same time. So that's really neat.
Yeah, and there is a full suite of counseling and psychological services, and a tutoring and writing center, a full range of other supports. Those were ones that I wanted to focus on particularly. But yeah, the key that I'll remind all of your students about when they get to college is the same types of academic and personal supports that you had access to in your secondary school are available to you, and then some at the college level. But here you have to raise your hand. You have to be proactive and seek it out, because in the college level, no longer are people checking in on you every day and following up with you and making sure it gets done. You do have to advocate when you get here, and the help is here. You just have to let us know that you need it.
Yeah, yeah, we try our best, as we get to know our students, once they've selected a college, kind of giving them somewhat of a matriculation checklist. And, even as early as, after May 1, when they've made that deposit over the summer, reaching out and making that connection that, what do I do? Where do I go? Who's my connection? So then it's not one of those things like they're feeling overwhelmed when they get there and they're excited. So then 2 weeks goes by and then they failed a test. And then they think, oh, I should have probably reached out, like just normalizing it from the start. So
Yeah.
again, we really like to see our student, empowering our students to advocate on their own behalf before they even step foot on campus. So I
I
want to
will
bounce
mention,
back. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I will mention that I have about 5 minutes left before I need to step out. So, which was a
No
little shorter
problem.
than we were expecting, but I
I know
hope
we
I
were
can get to
chit-chatting
everything
a little
else we
bit.
want to cover. So,
No, I totally understand. Okay, I will do two more questions. The next
of
one
course,
will go back to the scholarship piece. So do
yes.
you have any type of hidden scholarships? Like you said that most of your students are
Yeah.
considered for automatic scholarship based on admission. But is there anything that would require an extra application or an audition or something of that?
With one exception, our performing arts scholarships for music and theater majors do have an audition process in February of the senior year of high school, and students who express an interest in that on their application will automatically be contacted about how to access that audition process. Other than that, it's just one set of merit-based scholarships that run from 10 to 35,000 a year, and every student who applies is automatically considered for those. So
Okay.
the good news is also the bad news. It's one set of scholarships for everybody. You don't have to seek out anything else or do anything supplemental to be considered for it.
Yeah, I mean, we always just like to ask. My colleague Jamie did a really amazing resource about hidden scholarship, so we always like to ask. But typically that affects such a minimal amount of student, like 1% of the applying students could go for that business scholarship or, that named
Right.
scholarship of some sort. But we always like to ask because there is, always some, that kid that could
I
benefit from something like that and they don't
Yeah,
really publicize it.
that all of our students that you should be seeking those third-party scholarships, though, checking out scholarships.com and fastweb.com. There's millions of dollars in aid, and some of it gets left on the table because students either don't know it's there or they don't think it's worth the trouble to apply for. But $400 here, $200 there, as my dad used to say, pretty soon we're talking about real money.
For
So,
sure.
so go
Definitely
look for
covers
those
the
outside
books,
scholarships.
parking passes, the things that add up really fast that you don't think about.
Yes.
So you also, this is usually my last question. So you had already mentioned that your most interesting alumnus was Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Um, but would you say that there is maybe an exciting like guest or speaker that you've had on campus recently?
Oh, actually, that's a good question. I can't think of one right offhand, partly because I've been off campus the last 2 months. This is my second day back in my office since travel season has been over. So I can't think of somebody offhand. So I'm going to steal this question and pivot to a couple of other well-known alums, depending on the student's area of interest. If you are a sports fan, particularly of talk radio or sports radio, you may know the personality Christopher Mad Dog Russo. He's a Rollins graduate. If you're
Okay.
familiar with the music of DJ Diplo, he started his career spinning records on WPRK radio here. For our golfing fans, Pete Dye, who's one of the most famous names in golf course design in the world, is a Rollins graduate as well. But bringing
That's
that back
cool.
down to earth, we have about 80,000 active alumni right now around the country and around the world. But the exciting part is around 40% of them are within the last 20 years. So the core of your alumni base are younger graduates and people who are in the early to middle stages of their career, which make them excellent points of entry for you to get into those particular industries, those companies, those career fields. Our Rollins alums are very proud of their connection with our university, and they like to help out their following graduates wherever they can. So that alumni network is there for you across the country and in many other countries to support you in your career.
Well, that's great. I think that was an excellent pivot. So thank you for giving us some of those recognizable names. And thank you so much for your time. I know the travel season is quite the grind, but we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. And if you are watching this and want to reach out to Frank, he would be extremely helpful, or he can point you in the right direction. So best of luck to you as you wind down your travel season. And
Thank you.
thank you again so
And
much.
and I will leave you with one thing. Rollins College is on the Common Application, and the 4 no's at Rollins College are no application fee, no test requirement. We've been test optional for 20 years, no formal essay requirement, and no scholarship application. So for my seniors, if you've already started the Common Application, you can apply to Rollins for free in less than 5 minutes.
Awesome. Well, that's a great tip. Thank you again, Frank. It was so nice meeting you, and we will be in touch.
Thanks so much for the time and for setting this up. I hope you all have a great day.
All right. Take care.